Let's get ready to rumble!
Welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that's still reveling in the fact that cinemas are back, especially in the week that it has been announced that AMC cinemas have had their share price go through the roof. My name is Tosin and I am the host. I am based in the United Kingdom, in the middle of the country, in a place called, in a county called Worcestershire. And joining me on the Isle of Wight, as ever, are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Hiya.
How are we doing?
Good.
All right, thank you.
So, but did you guys see the news earlier this week that AMC cinemas, their share price has gone through the roof?
I heard it this morning. Actually.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah. It's so much so that AMC, they're offering free popcorn to anybody who's invested in them.
That's right. Yeah.
Because obviously cinemas have had a tough time over the last 12 months or so, over the last 12 plus months. And so they all of a sudden the prices are going through the roof. And people think it might be a little bit like a GameStop thing. Did you guys hear about the whole GameStop controversy?
No.
Where it's a complicated thing, but it has to do with shorting. So you know the film The Big Short, and it's something to do with that, and how a whole bunch of market traders had bet that GameStop was going to fail, and so there was an online group on Reddit who said, well, we don't like these market traders, we don't like the Wall Street guys, and the Wall Street guys are always trying to push us around. So instead of letting the GameStop fail, they just started buying GameStop stock, and because of the way the stock market works, if people show interest, the price rises. More people show interest, the price rises. So Wall Street lost millions because of these guys online.
Oh, good. I'm pleased about that.
The Wall Street traders, essentially what happens is that this is what the Wall Street traders do all the time. But these guys online got together and did it to the Wall Street traders, and the Wall Street traders started crying, going, "Oh, it isn't fair! Government, stop them! Stop them!
Look what they're doing. It's not fair that they're trying to take money from us. We're supposed to be taking money from them." And I think that's what they're doing now with AMC, because I bet you that there would have been traders over the last year who would have bet against cinemas coming back. They would have said these things are going to fail. These companies are going to disappear. They would have put their money and said that cinemas are going to fail. And now people are biting back and buying AMC stock and making sure that it rises through the roof. And I'm like, I'm all for it. You get to screw Wall Street over. You get to keep cinemas happy. What's not to like?
Yeah. Actually, it's funny you should, because I said I heard it this morning because I'm one of these people that listens to Radio 4 early in the morning, and they were actually saying that it might be with all the stuff going online now and different traders, Wall Street and those sort of places might start to become a little bit not so important, because.
It will be good. It would be good, but we know what human nature is like. I mean, I think if Wall Street becomes less important, then all the people online will just become the new Wall Street. And at the moment, because they're smaller, we're seeing them as a Robin Hood in this story. But the more powerful they become and the more influence that they have, the less they will be the Robin Hood. That's just the case. But anyway, let's talk about actual films. If you haven't listened to Netflix or cinema before, what we do is that we go to the cinema, which we can do again now. We go to the cinema and we see at least 3 things, and we stay at home and watch about 3 things. We rate them all out of 5, and at the end of the day, we tot them up and we say, where was our money better spent this week? Was it spent better at cinema, or was it spent better on Netflix and Friends, BBC iPlayer, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, whichever other one is going to show up out of nowhere in the next couple of days, because there's a new one every single day. So that's what we do. So we are going to kick off. We have a couple of things. So let's just see. Let's just run through what are the films that we are bringing to the table from cinema. So from cinema, I am bringing. What did I see? I saw Raya and the Last Dragon. And so Sharon, what are you bringing from cinema?
I saw Cruella at the cinema.
Cruella. So far, a very Disney heavy day. And sure.
Okay, I saw a Saw story or whatever, Spiral, and I might just make a mention of The Conjuring as well, and sort of Lupin was one.
All right, so these were things that you saw last week, but you went so beast mode last week that there was nothing left in the cinema to watch this week but Peter Rabbit 2. And even though, I mean, before we came on air, I know you were talking about it, you're a bit of a completist, and you were like, oh, maybe I should see Peter Rabbit 2. And I was like, Shaun, I think that might have been a painful couple of hours for you. I think it might have been a painful couple of hours for you, especially because, I'm not so sure what you think of James Corden, but I can't imagine you're a big fan. I will leave it at that. Cats. Cats. Oh, why did I do that? Why did I even give why did I give anybody a chance to bring that up? Oh my god. Oh good. Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You know, I think I'd rather talk about Justice League than talk about cats.
Yeah.
All right, so we will kick off. Let's kick off then. Oh no, we haven't talked about what we saw at home on TV. So home on TV, Shaun, what did you see?
I saw Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead on Netflix. Cool. I'm interested about that. I have that on my list. Sharon?
I saw a French drama called Resistance, which is I saw it on a catch-up service. There's a series of European dramas called Walter Presents or Walter Presents, and they you can catch up with them online. So I saw a French, Resistance.
Oh, cool, Resistance, and that is on all four, I'm guessing, because
yes,
Channel 4 in the UK presents Walter Presents, if that makes any sense. So. Yeah, and I saw a film on Apple TV Plus, which is called On the Rocks, which is a Sofia Copolla film. I never know how to pronounce it. Is it Copolla or Copolla? But
Copolla, I think.
Yeah, Copolla. Right, cool. So, shall we kick off with cinema? Let's kick off with Sharon. Sharon, shall you tell us what it is that you want? We give ourselves 7 minutes to review these films. So, your 7 minutes starts any moment now. Hang on a second. I'll just reset this and delete that and put a 7 minutes on there. Okay, your 7 minutes starts now.
I saw Cruella, which, like Maleficent before it, is a live-action Disney film where they take a classic animated villain and they give them a backstory and a film of their own. So, like Maleficent, it starts off with a young Cruella, and then we see the development of how she progresses to become the Cruella we know from 101 Dalmatians. So, yes, it starts off with, an origin story. So how Cruella, or as her birth name was, I've forgotten completely.
It is that relevant. It is that relevant.
It is quite relevant, but it's just gone. It's no, it's gone. I'll have to look it up, and I'll come back to that indirectly. But so it tells her how she was raised by a single mother, and how at school she was a bit rebellious, but she still managed to make friends, and how she ended up with these two, how she ended up basically on her own and living sort of in a squat with these two other young orphans, and how they grew up doing whatever they could to get by, but they relied upon each other. But throughout her life, her passion has been for design, for clothes, for statement pieces, for taking the ordinary and making it into the extraordinary. And this sort of leads her basically ultimately into getting a job in a fashion house, where she meets this grand villainess called the Baroness, who is played by Emma Thompson, and how she is inspired and repelled by her at the same time. But it's that relationship with this designer that basically acts as the catalyst for her becoming truly, Cruella. And how I don't really want to give too much away, because I haven't seen a trailer for it. I didn't see anything before it started. So I don't know what was in the trailer.
Okay, all right, cool. Look, I think so far you're giving us a really good sort of like synopsis of the film and all that. So when I heard they were making this film, my first thought was
Estella.
Estella is her original.
Estella, because I should remember it's like Great Expectations. So it's Estella is her name, and then she plays on it to become Cruella.
Okay. So the thing is, like, when I first heard that this film was being made, my reaction was one of just, for goodness sake, why? Why do you need to go in there and mind it? Have you truly run out of ideas? Why are you going? Because Cruella de Vil is delicious in her animated form and in the previous live action incarnation when Glenn Close played her in the live action version of 101 Dalmatians. Cruella's, and it's one of those things where one of the things that is so delicious about Cruella is how unapologetically horrible she is.
Yeah. Because her name is Cruella de Vil, and de Vil is devil, isn't it? So she is like the devil incarnate.
So when I heard they're making this film and they decide to go, oh, well, we're going to give her a backstory, I'm like, oh, this has all the hallmarks of being a bad idea that is not going to work. But then I heard that it had Emma Stone in it, and I was like, okay.
Emma Stone is Cruella, and Emma Thompson plays Baroness von Hellman. That's her name.
Yeah, and once you hear Emma Thompson, you kind of go, okay, I'm a bit more on board than I was 5 minutes ago because it has Emma Thompson in it.
Yeah, and Mark Strong is in it, and Joel Fry is it, and Joel McRae. There's quite a lot of young, up and coming British actors in it as well. Yeah. So there's lots to lots to like about it.
But for me, it's all about the two Emmas. But Shaun, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do hope. I mean, with Maleficent, it really, 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 really cheesed me off that they tried to be a bit forgiving with her. It was just totally ruined it for me. And I've got a real worry that they're going to try and make excuses for Cruella de Vil, which I don't think they should do.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that, if they make you sort of feel something.
Well, with any origin story where the star of the film is that the bad guy, then I think you have to make that they're trying to sort of humanize these characters that were in the original sort of Disney animated films. The bad guys were just the bad guys. Yeah. And I think they're now trying to say, okay, is there a cause and effect? I mean, are they bad because they are just born bad, or are they bad because circumstances have made them bad? So I think they begin to make, some people think, no, don't do that, because we don't need to have a motivation for our bad guys. Some people are just not very nice. They're just born evil. And I think, but with this Disney, this is Disney. So I think they want to give even the bad guys a reason for being bad.
Because then they can make more money. But anyway, what do you think of it as a film?
As a film, I enjoyed it. I thought the part of me, excuse me, I think it was playing for nearly 2 hours long, or just over 2 hours. Excuse me.
No problem.
I just breathed in the wrong moment.
You need to go get some water.
It was 2 hours 14 minutes long, so for me it felt slightly too long.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to just breathe for a moment.
Okay, yeah, you breathe. Don't worry, everybody. We're keeping an eye on her on Zoom, so we know if she's gonna fall apart. Fall over.
Go, whoa!
911. Shaun is not that far away.
I'm coming back. Yes, I felt, for me, the only thing I felt was at 2 hours and 14 minutes long, it felt slightly extended. I like my dramas to be under 2 hours, really. Unless it's full on, it needs to be that long to tell the story. I think you can be guilty of padding. And I think there's some scenes in the middle where there's like a battle of wills between Cruella and the Baroness, which is not giving anything away because that is quite a big chunk of the film. Yeah. And I think in some ways that went on for slightly too long. And so I think they could have been a bit heavier with some of maybe the editing and made it a little bit tighter. Because for me, 2 hours, 14 minutes for this type of film is stretching it a bit, especially if you want to have a younger audience. And it's a 12A, but if you want to have a younger audience, you don't want to be sat in the cinema for 2.5 hours plus adverts with children.
Yeah, because I have to admit, I considered seeing this film and I saw 2 hours, 15 minutes, and it just started bringing up all of my rejections or all of my objections to this film. And I was like, oh my God, why does it have to be 2 or 40 minutes long? They're going to, and even now that you started, even when you were telling some of the story and they started putting all these things in about her childhood, I was like, that sounds like padding. I mean, that sounds like bad. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's some scenes when you want to get to, like, there's like a dramatic climax to a film. You want them to get to it a bit sooner. So for me, it felt slightly long. But then for saying that, I did enjoy it. I mean, I didn't hate Maleficent. So I quite like this, you know, sort of almost like reinventing arch villains to sort of give them motivation. So, and you know, her loyal henchmen, there's a reason why her henchmen are loyal. And so you see the reason for that in this. So I don't mind that as in terms of like character development and sort of expanding that existence of Cruella beyond the cartoon character. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I would definitely give it 3 stars. I don't think to me it earned more than that, again because I found it was slightly long, but the characters, yeah, they're all played to the max. They're, you know, Emma Stone can do big, Emma Thompson can go big, and this was a film where you have to go big or go home, I think. So and I think they both sort of made the most of it, because where it's in the fashion world, they both got the knack of doing that whole I am posing, and so they you could tell that they were having a ball making it. So,
all right, good stuff.
Yeah, I'd give it 3 stars, but probably I wouldn't give it more than that at its running time.
3 stars to begin with for Cruella for cinema, out of the box. And we're going to go over to Netflix, but I wonder what's going to be the next Disney bad guy.
Lady Tremaine, I expect.
Is that Aristocats?
No, that's Cinderella. That's the stepmother.
Oh, I was actually
and the 2 daughters.
I was thinking the guy on the mountain with the lightning bolts in Fantasia.
Oh yeah, possibly. He's just a demon. I think he's just like Saturn, isn't he? Because the piece of music to that is Saturn. I think he's just like supposed to be someone.
Yeah. Oh, Madam Mim. Madam Mim from The Sword and the Stone.
yeah. Madam Mim work together. There's another one. You could have. Yeah, who else could you have? Well, you could
start having my lack of knowledge of classic Disney.
You could have the evil queen from Snow White.
Snow White, yeah. Sound
I've got it.
Sheriff of Nottingham.
Oh no, I've got it. The next one is going to be the guy who shot Bambi's mum.
Yeah, that'll do, won't it? That'll do. Yeah, you could have that.
That would be a horrible.
I would like to see the fox and the wolf from Pinocchio. See why they was such a.
But anyway, enough of that. I reckon. Okay, so now we're gonna go over to cinema. Go over to Netflix, and on Netflix we have Shaun. I mean, obviously. We mentioned our good friend, a good friend's last work, Zack Snyder, Justice League.
Snyder, yeah.
And this is him. This is him going back to what I'm hoping is his home. This is him going. This is Zack Snyder going home to something that fits him and something that should be like, you know, all the things that we complain about that have to do with, like, you know, with Justice League and all that kind of stuff. We shouldn't have those problems here. So Shaun, Army of the Dead.
Army of the Dead. Okay.
Zack Snyder is this Zack Snyder back home? Tell us.
Zack Snyder back home. And there's not so much slow-mo in this as there was in Justice League. So there's still slow-mo, but, you know, it's in the right places, shall we say. So, okay, basically, this is a story of there's obviously been a bit of a zombie apocalypse, and it's taken place in Las Vegas. And so Las Vegas is, like, ringed off with all the zombies. And there's this group of, like, mercenaries, a lot of people that end up going to do a heist into this vault to get the money. Like, this chap turns up and he goes, you've got 96 hours because they're going to nuke
nuke Las Vegas to get rid of all the zombies.
Nuke Las Vegas, to get rid of all the zombies. So it starts off with, it's Dave Bautista. He's like the lead with his gang mercenaries, and he goes around, gets some people together that have been fighting zombies for a while, gets a little like group of mercenaries, a bit like the Magnificent Seven or whatever you say, and they've all got their different traits, and they go in. They obviously go into Las Vegas, and Las Vegas, the landscape of Las Vegas, you've got all the big hotels, and you've got 2 groups of zombies. You've got like the shamblers and the hibernators, and then you've got like a little group that are a little bit more. They're the faster ones.
Well, from the trailer, it seemed like in this film we have kung fu zombies.
Yeah. That's it. Fast. So you've got the slowies. And then there's a group of fasties, which and as they go along, they're like, oh, you know, we have to leave a sacrifice. And there's this. One of the guys. I won't give a spoiler, but anyway. So they'll be left alone with this clever group of zombies, if providing they don't get stray too far away from the path sort of things where they want to be.
So far we have a zombie film combined with a heist film.
Yes, yeah, basically, yes.
So from what I can understand is go into Las Vegas,
Las Vegas, yeah.
Go into a destroyed Las Vegas because when people left Las Vegas with all the zombies, they left a lot of money in the casinos. So it's go in there, break in, get the money, get out before they nuke all the zombies. Oh, and while you're there, don't become a zombie yourself.
That's it, yeah, basically.
So that's basic it. And for me, it's a kind of premise that I'm like, it's nice. It's simple. It doesn't require a whole bunch of story. You don't need to digitally erase somebody's mustache. You don't need to start a campaign. This seems nice and simple and almost 300 like you could do something. This could be 300 Zack Snyder back again. So with that, we know that this is like, you know how last week we talked about Godzilla versus Kong, and I was like, we don't need no storyline.
Yeah,
and it's a bit like that. So with this film, Shaun, tell me, you've told us what happens in it. Tell us, how did this make you feel? How did you react to it?
So right, the titles, the opening titles. Absolutely brilliant. There's some, I mean, I'm really into my opening titles, and some of the best ones was Mum and Dad, and a few others. I think it was anyway. So, but to start off with the trailers, because it's all like basically what's happening, but it's all like, like in Zombieland, Double Tap.
Yeah.
It gives you all the stories of like what's going on, and
I
mean, there's all the zombie tropes there, but it's like, I don't know, that bit really, I was like, yeah, I'm up for this. And there's like a real slow motion when they got like carpet bombing all the zombies, and there's all flying around and like people getting bitten and shot. So the first, and that the credits got to go on for a good 7-10 minutes. And
wow,
it's just, there's obviously the slow-mo bits in there because he loves the slow-mo bits. So yeah, that's really good. And there's some terrific action scenes in it. Because, should we say, in this group, there's someone who's not quite what he seems to be. And so when you've got a group of hibernating zombies, they're like, oh, we can't make any noise. We can't. And one of them saying, follow me. And then, but anyway.
Okay, you see, Shaun, before watching this film, just hearing about this film, I was already getting some serious Aliens vibes. Like the second film of the Aliens franchise, I was getting some serious Aliens vibes. What you have just said has almost sort of like reconfirmed those alien vibes.
There's some great action sequences in it, and it's like when they do obviously in with bank vaults, you need there's a few comedic bits in it which make the whole thing. But anyway, so when you've got a big vault, there's obviously hidden traps, isn't there? So that's convenient to send people in to set off traps and stuff like that. So there's some funny moments in it, and there are a couple of moments that I sort of became a bit deflated. So to me, this movie was brilliant in parts, and then not quite so good in parts, and then then I had my Huffy moments. I call them my Huffy moments, where it's like, oh, come on, no, that's a bit tough. But there's got to be a few of those in this. I mean, it's a zombie film, for goodness sake. So yeah, the smart zombies, I'm not sure if I like that idea. I mean, I like the idea of there being two different sets, but yeah, I mean, for action wise, it is everything you want from a zombie film. It's and as I say, you've got the stock characters of like the mercenary and the guy's safecracker and a couple of women. And the one bit that did really, really, really annoying is Dave Bautista's daughter sort of ends up coming along, and
I spotted that in the trailer. Yeah,
and it's like. And there were some moments where the two of them talking, and they're trying to get to terms with it because Dave Bautista's obviously killed the mum. So it's like
there's like a strange
there's a moment, and they're just talking about the gun, and it's like, oh, come on, why are we going into this? Just go shoot a few more zombies, will you? But I mean, on the whole, a really, really quite good, enjoyable movie. And as I say, I loved the titles, loved the opening credits of this. It's just like, it's great. Opening credits I love. Oh yeah, it was Hardcore Henry was the other real.
Oh yeah, Hardcore Henry, yeah.
With all the slow-mo of the, So yeah, and Mum and Dad was good with the credits. But anyway, so on the whole, I'm probably going to give this one a 3 rather than a 4. So I'm going to give it a 3, but I did enjoy it. Some bits unnecessary, probably a bit like Cruella, just was like, let's get on with it. So yeah, so this will get a 3-star from me.
All right, cool, no problem. Well, the truth is, it's Zack Snyder. I expected the huffy bits. I expected all those things. I mean, but bearing in mind that I think his debut film as a director was the remake of Dawn of the Dead,
which I love.
Which I know.
That's one of the few remakes that I absolutely really, really enjoy.
Yeah, which you love. So I feel like I do feel like this is a bit of him like going back home. It's kind of, don't give me a pre-existing universe. Don't give me anything. Let me do what it is I want.
Yeah.
But I still think that the height of marrying his style with some sort of substance is still 300.
300, yeah.
I still think 300 is, for the kind of film that it is pretty much a perfect film.
That's it. Yeah.
And it's so yeah. I still think that it is, but with this, I was like, okay, cool. We're going to shoot them. Why are we shooting them? They're zombies. There's no, why we shoot? They're zombies. Why are we doing this? Zombies.
He did have fast zombies in Dawn of the Dead, didn't he?
Yeah, they were the fast ones. Yeah.
I
think there was probably a few, what should we say, homages, to Dawn of the Dead. But then you're going to get that in any zombie film, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, you're going to get that.
Zombies are zombies. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the fast zombies were a bit ballet. Oh yeah, and watch out for the zombie tiger.
Oh yes, I've seen that.
So is that a nod to The Walking Dead? Because they have their tiger,
yeah, possibly. But yeah, the zombie tiger, amongst other zombie curiosities.
Yeah, but the thing is, we're typical nowadays trailer making. There's tigers in the trailer. The tiger is in front and center in the trailer, so that's no surprise. I know the tiger's in the film. Anyway, so and it's on the trailer they show you on Netflix when you go on. All right, cool. Now we're going to go back to cinema. So we had 3-3, round 1, 3-3. Now we're going to go into cinema, and this is a film that very easily could be on the Netflix side of the equation, because this is a film called Raya and the Last Dragon. It's a Disney animated movie, and it's a film that they had a lot of push towards it. They had a lot of push towards this film before the pandemic hit, and it was going to be a big deal because the same way they were talking about Mulan as in being a film that's actually going to represent China, and this is a film that was going to have, the way they put it was Disney's first ever Southeast Asian story. But because they always have to sort of categorize everything and break everything down. So this is the first film that stars a dog with spots on it called Bob as the lead character, and they have to do all this sort of stuff. So they were going to do this was going to be a big deal, and they were in the middle of production when the pandemic hit. So they couldn't actually go into the studio to finish off the film. So pretty much everybody took their work home with them, and they finished this film in isolation with people all over the world in different homes, putting this film together and doing the voice work and doing all that. So and it came out on Disney Plus a while back, but it was one of those premiere access things where you had to pay 15 quid to watch it on top of the money you're already paying for Disney Plus. And as you know, I wasn't going to do that. So I'm actually quite happy that this film got to have a release in cinemas. And I think the film kicks off and it sort of sets the scene. Like, Disney, setting the scene is almost Disney 101. And I think the people who are making the film, they know, okay, this is Disney setting the scene 101. So they're trying to play with it a bit, because it starts off when you have this sort of desolate desert landscape that would not be out of place in Mad Max. And then you see somebody just sort of rolling through on this big thing, or like it looks like a big wheel and just rolling through. And then the voiceover comes up and it goes, I know what you're thinking, right? A desert landscape, or a lone rider, post-apocalyptic world. Well, how did we get here? And then it sort of goes back and tells you all about what actually comes up with this. So this is a world called Kumandra, and Kumandra is to Southeast Asia what Wakanda is to Africa. It's a made-up place that has like different elements of different Southeast Asian countries dropped in around it. But all I can say is this film kicks off and they're introducing you to the 5 tribes that make up Kumandra. So let me get this right. There's Fang, Talon, Tail, Spine, and Heart. And because the map of Kumandra actually looks like a dragon, and each one of them is named over which bit of the dragon they live at. So there's these 5 tribes and all around them. And when they're introducing them, within the first 10 minutes of the film, the fact that a durian that a durian shows up. Durian fruit shows up in the first 10 minutes of this film. And once I saw that, I was like, I think the right people are making this film.
Toast. Just on one of my tangents. I know durian is like you get in Southeast Asia. Can you get durian in Africa as well?
Never seen it.
Never seen it. No.
Never. I never saw. Well, you might get it in some bits of Africa, but not in Nigeria, not in West Africa. It's not a big thing. I think we would run away from anything that smells that bad.
Yeah.
So the fact that durian shows up, and so you get all these little things. I mean, for me, the two things that made me think the right people made this film was that a durian shows up in the first 10 minutes, and B, the greeting that one person gives another greeting when they meet them for the first time is, "Have you eaten?" Which, if you have been anywhere in Southeast Asia, like I know in Singapore, in Malaysia, that is the thing. You see somebody and you ask them, "Have you eaten?" Not hello, it's "Have you eaten?" And I was like, okay, cool. I think I'm going to like this. So with this film, it is an adventure film. It's one of these things where you have to go. The whole idea is that you have a land and something terrible happened to the land sometime in the past, and now we need to go forward and we need to get all these things together. When we get all these things together, the land can be healed. It's that kind of story. It's a story you've heard before and all sorts of stuff. There's a lot of things about this that remind me of Kubo and the Two Strings. If you remember the sort of stop motion animation from a couple of years ago, because Raya she's on a quest because her father believed that Kumandra could be one country again. Because what happened is that in the folklore, there were these horrible things called the Droons that turned everything they touched into stone. And they came in there, but there was one dragon that actually sort of like sacrificed herself and released this gemstone that dispelled the Droon. And as long as the gemstone is there, the Droons stay at bay. And so this gemstone is in Heart, but all the other tribes believe that if they get the gemstone, then their land will prosper as much as Heart is prospering. So there's this fighting between the whole thing. And because at the beginning of the story, somebody trusts somebody that they shouldn't, something goes wrong, the Droon come back, most of the country gets turned into stone. And Raya is on a quest to find the last dragon, bring the last dragon back, and then bring the land back. So that's it. The things I'll tell you about this film. The fight scenes in this are the best I have ever seen in an animated film. Ooh. Honestly, they are like proper action sequences that looks like something out of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or something like. You can see that they have taken time to understand martial arts and they've actually done all these things. Brilliant. Some of the set pieces, because there's a little bit of Indiana Jones type stuff in there as well. Some of the set pieces I think are absolutely brilliant. The way they put them together. I think the story holds together quite well. And the voice performances, because you have Awkwafina. Awkwafina plays Sisu, the last dragon of the title. And there's some times when I get worried with Awkwafina that I'm going to get tired of her. And I'm going to get tired of her shtick. I'm going to get tired of that whole thing. But it actually really works in this. I think it's pulled back enough. The bits where she's being, where she's trying to deliver something emotional, it works. The bits where she's trying to be funny, it works. So I actually really like this film. Obviously, it's animated, and I am already predisposed to like it. But I think that they did really well. I'm really impressed. And this is the film I was talking about. That I was the last person in the cinema waiting there, watching all of the credits because I was like, just in case something comes up. Couple of things I look for any Nigerian name, any Nigerian name whatsoever in a cast or crew. I'm like, yeah, I saw one. There's one. And also at the very end, they say there's something that they put that I really liked, which was they thanked everybody for taking their work home, and the fact that this film was made in over 400 homes around the world because people had to do that, and thank you very much for putting up with that inability to deal with Zoom. And then in brackets they go, Dave, you're still on mute. And that's right at the end of the credits. And I'm like, okay, I like this. I really like this when this film was made. And I would give it a 4 out of 5. So if you can track it down, I'll say Raya and the Last Dragon. And Shaun, I know you love that area of the world. I think that there would be little things dropped here and there that you would see, and you'd be like, ooh, that tribe, they're the Filipinos. That tribe, they're Indonesians. That tribe. And they have all these different things in there. It's actually just really cool. And I would recommend
try and see that. I should try and catch that one.
Yeah, and I would recommend that. So that was Raya and the Last Dragon. Yeah, as I said, gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I quite enjoyed it, although I think that, some of the problems that when we talk about Kubo and the Two Strings, some of the problems that Kubo and the Two Strings has, I think this has as well. Like the fact that the quest is we need to go there and get this thing, and we need to go there and get that thing, and we need to go there and get that thing. And the setup of going there to get something seems really, really great. But then when you get there, it seems like it's over before anything happens. Like one of the lands in particular, Talon, is one of the lands they go to, and they have this wonderfully rendered night scene, and it's like a night market and everything. It just looks amazing. And it was over too quickly. I actually went, I was like, I want to spend more time in Talon. I want to spend more time with, that bit was great. I want to spend more time there. But it's like, no, we go what we came here for, goodbye. And it's like, what? But there wasn't enough of a fight. There wasn't enough of a resistance. No. So yeah, a similar thing. But anyway, now we go from cinema and we go back to Netflix and Friends. And Sharon, we have you here with a film called Resistance, or a TV series called Resistance. So please tell us all about Resistance.
This is a French drama, and it's actually from 2014. So it's been out there a while. But this collection of sort of European television under the Walter Presents banner, they sort of basically drag out all these sort of different dramas from across Europe that have been widely appreciated but haven't really necessarily been accessible to a British audience before now. So yeah, I went, and I do keep an eye on them. A lot of them are crime dramas, which after the killing they suddenly think, yeah, let's have some, subtitled murders, which I do enjoy that sort of drama, but a little goes a long way. So this one is called Resistance, and it's about, as you would guess, the French resistance, but told from the point of view of the French. So it's basically, it starts off with at the beginning of the war, when the Battle of France has ended. So effectively, it's the beginning of 1940, after the French have surrendered, and the Vichy government has created a occupied zone, and there is the so-called unoccupied zone, or the free zone, in the south of France. And at the beginning of the war, to most of the French, there was the German occupying army were portrayed to be as, friendly invaders. They were like, they tried to sort of have publicity shots with like the really handsome, tall, blonde, good-looking German soldiers like strolling around, being friendly to the French girls, being like the model occupying force, rather than an occupation of hostile people.
Yeah.
And for that reason, in the Vichy-controlled, the collaborating part of the French people, the French police were left in uniform, and the secret police worked alongside the Gestapo were mainly Frenchmen. So the police was set up as run by the French to police the French. It was supposed to be, I think. So in the midst of this, you get this fictitious character called Lily, and she is a character that basically you see the war through her eyes, and she encounters through the years of the war real people of the French resistance. So people who are documented as this is their experience. And so she is sort of like weaves her way through meeting a resistance cell that are based out of one of the museums where they published a newspaper at the beginning of the war, through to them trafficking the escaped airmen down through France into Free France. And then when the occupation expanded, dealing with the resistance cells that occupied the south of France, and how the story of the resistance changed as the war progressed. So you see a fictitious character, but interacting with people that we know existed in the French resistance, and how the nature of the French resistance changed over the years of the war. How it started off basically about free press. They produced newspapers and they distributed it, and then helping people escape, and then actually later on an armed resistance and sabotaging things. So yeah, it's it's over 6 parts. So you do get to see how this one young woman who's like a teenager at the beginning of the story, and how she has basically reaches her maturity through the war years, and how it affects her personally, and how it affects her friends, and how she personifies this sort of spirit of the resistance through this one young woman.
All right, cool. And so we know you loved your history. Yep. We know you love we know you love your history. We know you love the sort of story. So how did this get you? What did you think about it?
I enjoyed it in some ways. In some ways, I thought it was quite typically French, because which sounds stupid, it's a French drama, but its attitude to the resistance I thought was quite of its type, because at the end of the war, when Charles de Gaulle was returned, after the liberation at the very end of the war and then the beginning of peace, and when they said, what are you going to do about the Frenchmen who were the policemen, and what are you going to do about the French secret police who ran the police, and what about these other people who collaborated? And he said everyone was resistance. We are going to treat all Frenchmen as if they were part of the resistance. We are going to we're going to ignore that collaborative part of our history, and we are going to embrace the fact that we all resisted in our own way. And we know that wasn't true, because I think Frenchmen turned in more Frenchmen than any other country in the world that was occupied at the time. So they did take that approach to it, that people who collaborated were like, well, they were just doing what they could to survive. And then there was but we really were all Frenchmen resist, French women resist. So I think it played into that idea of themselves, that they were a nation of people who fought the occupation, rather than what we know, the fact that there's a documented evidence that there was quite a widespread collaboration in some quarters.
Very much so.
And so, and it did shy away from a lot of how the Jews were turned in and rounded up by French policemen. They were rounded up and shipped off. They did sort of gloss over some of those more ugly aspects of the occupation. But I thought, as a story of one young woman and her sort of journey through the war, I thought it did neatly link up the different ways that the resistance did change throughout the war. And obviously no one person would have been in all these 5 different areas of resistance. No one would have been doing the newspapers, escorting airmen, and then bombing things later on. There was no one person did all that, because basically they didn't survive long enough to do all those things. So I found it good. I found it quite sort of interesting to see it from a different cultural viewpoint, because what I've read about it has been written by people who are either American or British, looking at the resistance, and obviously with a slightly more jaundiced eye. But as entertainment, I thought, there was sort of drama in it, there was tension, there was romance, there was friendship, there was tragedy, there was pathos. So it sort of touched all those sort of key points that you would want from an emotional story about occupation. But for me, it did feel slightly lacking. I felt it lacked a little bit of humour, because you can look at some of these things, and to me it reminded me a little bit of The Secret Army and Hello, and because it tried to be serious and take its subject serious, it then strayed slightly into sort of parody, because it was so girls in ankle socks with overcoats, and all the Gestapo were wearing black overcoats with black somber hats on, and they all sort of leaned up against and looked at people. So it fell into stereotypes in a few places, but it was entertaining, and I'd give it 3 stars.
All right, cool, good stuff. So, do you think it is like one of those things where all that stuff might have been true, but it's been parodied so much that anything that looks like that immediately looks like parody?
Yes, when all the French policemen basically were wearing trench coats and these black hats, and so when they walked into a cafe, it's like, they're police.
Yeah, you know who they are. There's no pretense with these people.
No, and all the French girls, they weren't all wearing like berets and sort of belted Macintoshes, but you got the feeling that they probably would if they could. So you would, yes, that did crop into my mind a couple of times.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's a bit like, I know we spoke about Ragnarok, which was kind of like almost sort of like Norway reclaiming its own mythology and being the one to tell its own mythology and all that kind of stuff.
Season 2 I shall be reviewing soon.
yes, the Ragnarok Season 2 coming out soon. And you have all these different things, and I quite like it when you have different cultures pretty much reclaiming and saying, we're going to tell our own story. So it's interesting, as you say, like, the sort of French view on it, and the way we're gonna look at it as opposed to the way anyone else looks at it. All right, cool. And now we're going to a final round. And to go back to cinema. And we're going to go back to cinema for a film that I do not bear much hope for. And bearing in mind that Shaun is the one reviewing it, I also do not bear much hope for this film because it's kind of like, it's like the perfect storm. It's a modern horror movie. Shaun is reviewing a modern horror movie. Shaun hasn't been scared by a modern horror movie in 15 years. Shaun usually spends a lot of the time going, that's stupid. And this is a reboot. It's a reboot of what was, everybody admitted, was a tired franchise. How many inventive ways can you find to kill people? How many inventive ways can you find to kill people? So I'm not expecting much. So with that, I would say next up is Spiral.
Spiral. Okay.
Sure, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, I decided to do a horror double bill, so I also went to see The Conjuring.
Okay. Yeah.
The third one in The Conjuring. So, but that's just a 3-star. It was okay. It wasn't. Yeah. It didn't frighten me or anything like that. It was pretty much what it was. It was probably the better one out of that series. But anyway, Spiral. Let's get on to Spiral. A Saw story or whatever it's called. Spiral. Anyway,
Spiral from the Book of Saw.
That's the one. Yeah. Oh. So anyway, I'm not like invested in the Saw films. In fact, I don't think I've ever. I probably have seen one, but I've probably seen one, and that's it. I think I've seen the one where. I don't know. They all seem to be the same, I think, when their hands are tied and like something's coming towards them, like a big axe or a big chopper or a big, it is what it is. Okay, so I didn't go in too much expecting too much of this one. And it starts off, there's like some killings going on, and they obviously say, oh, these are copycat Jigsaw. Oh, I thought Jigsaw was dead. Jigsaw obviously being the Saw one. Oh, I thought Jigsaw was dead. So is this a copycat killer? What's going on that?
I don't even watch the Saw movies, and even I know they played that tune before.
Right. So anyway, so what you've got is, it's like this is more of a detective story than it is a. I mean, there's horror in it, and there's ridiculous amounts of blood and gore and stuff. Like, because I think it is an 18. I'm not sure what the certificate is, but I'm pretty sure it must be with that. But anyway, cut long story, it's like an investigative thing. It's like a police story, really.
Yeah.
Rather than because they're investigating these murders and things. But you've got Chris Rock. Chris Rock is a detective now. He doesn't. I don't know. It's funny with Chris Rock. It's not a sort of role. I don't know if I could take him serious. But anyway, there's a lot of police that are crooked. There's a lot of police that are doing things, and he's like shopped one of them, so his partner was one, and he sort of shopped him in, so no one really likes him and all that. But the thing is, with Chris Rock, has he ever played any other straight roles?
He's kind of. When I think of there was a film called Bad Company.
Oh right, okay.
With him and Anthony Hopkins, where it's an action movie, but he's still a bit comedic in it. He was in Lethal Weapon 4. But it was still a bit comedic in it.
Yeah. Well, in this, he's supposed to be playing a sort of really, really straight character. So he's supposed to be really, really straight, and he's like the good cop. He's got attitude. But he's still when he goes up an octave in his voice and that, it's still like it's comedic roles.
Yeah.
I found really, really hard to disassociate myself from.
No, I know exactly what you mean.
Chris Rock being in a straight role.
I think probably the most serious I've seen him was a film called Top 5, which was kind of like a sort of grown-up romantic comedy in the sort of before sunrise, before sunset mold with him and Rosario Dawson. That's probably it. But yeah, Karen.
Okay, and then you've got his dad is Samuel L. Jackson, right? And he was like the. He was the head of the police department and all that. And to me, I think Sam Jackson, it just felt like, oh, this is just a money earner for me. Yeah, Sam Jackson, this is a money earner. It's not like I haven't got to do anything great, except say the MF word a few couple of times, just say that. Anyway, basically, so you got these things, and it turns out that it's these the people that are getting killed are bent policemen. So they're obviously bent policemen. And I mean, I don't really want to give any spoilers, but it all goes back to, which I thought was quite good. I thought was quite a good twist, actually, because it caught me out. Because I mean, I'm generally quite good at these things.
Don't tell us what the twist is.
I'm not going to tell you what the twist is, but I'm just saying it was like.
There was a twist and you didn't see it coming.
No, I didn't see it coming. And it was like, I thought, Oh my goodness, and it all ties in with
the previous Saw films.
Say with sort of say with so it all sort of goes back to Chris Rock, if you like. But
okay.
So, but anyway, the torture scenes, they're pretty much. I mean, like, I don't know if they could do it. There's one where there's like got loads of stuff and his blood's draining out of him and all stuff like that, and he's tied up. But for a detective film, if it was a detective film, and Chris Rock, I'd been able to dissociate myself from Chris Rock playing a straight detective. This might have been an okay film. This might have been a pretty good film. And it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be really, really awful. And it wasn't as bad. As I say, I really didn't see the twist coming, and I really quite liked the twist. I thought, do you know what? That's really, really good at the end. I thought that is a good twist. And as I say, I did not see it coming anywhere.
Oh, all right, good.
And yet now, when I think back to it, if I was to watch it again, you've got all the clues. You've got all the clues leading up to. Oh right, okay, yeah. Now we can see where this is coming from.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And go on.
All right, cool. So how many stars would you give it?
Well, this one I'm going to give a 3-star. So 3-star.
I would call that for Spiral. I would call that an absolute triumph because I was expecting Shaun to have like the knives sharpened,
a lot of issues. Yeah,
and come in. I was expecting to hear the words. Why would you do that multiple times? So I would say well done because Chris Rock came up with the idea for this film. And without Chris Rock, they wouldn't have. I think they pretty much left Saw to be dead.
Right.
But I think I know what you mean because I've seen the trailer for this, and there's one shot where they have Chris Rock and he goes, "Did you notice anything unusual?" and that one shot, I'm just kind of like, I don't think this is gonna work. I'm just kind of like. I mean, it's horribly prejudiced, but I just going to go, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think Chris Rock is going to be able to do this.
I mean, as I say, this wasn't really a horror film to me. This was more of a detective drama, with lots of blood. And I think, well, let's just say, I mean, I wasn't like ready to go. I wasn't, and it entertained me, and that was much better. Maybe it's these films. Sometimes you go in with really, really low expectations, don't you?
Yeah.
And sometimes they're so maybe that was part to do with it because I did have really low expectations. And then again, there are films that you have low expectations for, and they are low expectations. But
they go even lower.
They go even lower.
They limbo right underneath your expectations.
Like cats, and I got it.
Yeah, exactly. So it surprised me. This one, it surprised me, but it gets a 3-star. So.
All right, cool, no problem. And so we come to our final film of the evening. And this is one that I saw on Apple TV Plus, and this is On the Rocks. Sofia Copolla. I think it's one of the things I love about Sofia Copolla is that she is a recognized, respected filmmaker in her own right. No longer do people see her as, her daddy made a great film once. It's kind of like they look at her, and so she's famous for Lost in Translation. It's probably her most famous thing, Lost in Translation with Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. And this is her reuniting with Bill Murray. And it's a film that kicks off, and it's a black screen while they're still doing the credits. And you just hear somebody come on and say, you hear Bill Murray's voice speaking to somebody. And it becomes apparent he's speaking to his daughter, and he says, "It's like, okay, and now we know what's gonna happen. We know what are you?" She's like, "I'm yours." He's like, "Yeah, that's right. You're mine. You're mine until you get married, and even then, you're still mine." And then it cuts to the future, where this daughter has grown up, and the daughter is played by Rashida Jones, and she's now grown up. She's gone married. She's gone married. She has 2 kids. And the whole idea of the film comes about because her husband is he has a startup company, and he's away with work a lot. And one of the people that he's away with work with is called Fiona, and she thinks Fiona is actually quite beautiful, and her husband has spent a lot of time with this person. And there's all these little things that keep happening in the relationship that make her worry. Like one night he comes back, her husband comes back from a flight to London, and climbs into bed and starts kissing her. And then she's like, hey, what are you doing? And then it's like her husband realizes that he's kissing her and goes, oh, and then rolls over and goes to sleep. So she starts asking her friends. And she's like, does this mean anything? What do you think? Do you think he thought I was somebody else? Why would he be kissing somebody else? All that kind of stuff. And so they're like, oh, no, don't worry. It's fine. But then she phones up her dad, who's played by Bill Murray, and says, what do you think this means? And her dad is straight up like, he thought you were somebody else. And you find out that her dad is like this sort of, he's no longer with her mom because he cheated on her mom, and he's like this sort of aging Lothario who pretty much all of his ideas of, this is a man who has never heard of the term gender politics or sexual or like, you know, or giving women the vote. So he is stuck in the 70s. And so Bill Murray shows up, and he's kind of like, you know, he's like this rich art dealer type who sort of like goes to private clubs in New York and all that. And he says, and he's kind of person who tell you things like, look, women are like this, men are like that. Every single woman that he meets, even though he's with his daughter, he hits on. That is just good. You know, imagine the kind of Lothario that Bill Murray can play very, very well. And even though this guy should be a bit of a dirtbag, Bill Murray can make him charming. That's the kind of character that he is. And he convinces her that what they need to do is that he's like, look, there is no way your husband is not cheating on you. He's a man, therefore he's cheating on you. Yeah. Let's tail him. So it becomes a bit of sort of weird detective stakeout film where they follow him around in different places, like at night. And the way as it's going up, you start realizing that this might not really be about tailing the husband, but maybe it's just about a dad who really wants to, who misses spending his time with his daughter, and possibly regrets what he did earlier in his life that meant he didn't spend enough time around with his daughter. But the tailing of the husband goes crazy. There's a bit where she leaves her children with her mother, and they both hop on a plane to go to a resort in Mexico because they're tailing. And it just gets silly, and it gets more absurd, and you can probably hear a baby in the background. I'll go deal with her in a second. And it gets more absurd, and and it's kind of one of these sort of quietly funny films that isn't really sort of like massively funny, haha. You know, you don't find yourself laughing out loud, but there's tiny little vignettes and tiny little things, like a bit where he's driving a car like a madman in New York, and he gets pulled over by policemen, and the way he gets out of being given a speeding ticket by these policemen, you just kind of like, essentially Rashida Jones is in the scene and she's rolling her eyes. And she is the audience in that scene because we are all rolling our eyes at, oh my God, only Bill Murray could get away with that. That kind of stuff. So all in all, I thought it was quite a good film. It's going to be very slow for some. Some people are going to wonder, okay, when does this thing happen? When does the plot actually kick off? What is going on? But it's one of those sort of slice of life kind, and it's what Sofia Copolla does anyway, which is that she does slice of life, sort of a bit meditative, a bit lets you think about your life, and it's the kind of film that you finish and you go, you know what, maybe I should call my parents. I haven't spoken to my dad for a while or something like that. It's maybe they do want to spend some time with me. I don't really know. So it's all in all, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I thought it was well done, well acted. Bill Murray is excellent. Rashida Jones is really, really good. And you talk about comedians. You talk about comedians playing a straight character like, you know, Chris Rock. Hang on a second. I'm feeling really bad as a dad right now because I'm like, I should go do something. I should go pick her up. But I know she's with her mum. So I'm gonna. Okay,
she knows it's the last review of the show.
She knows it's the last review of the show, and she's like, "It's daddy-daughter bath time."
That's it. Yeah, come on, Dad. Where are you?
Where are you, Dad? Stop talking about films and come pick me up. Stop talking about a fictional dad and be a real dad. But yeah, so I think, and we're talking about comedians playing a good role, playing a straight role, and Marlon Wayans, who's one of the Wayans brothers. He does really, really well in a straight role in this film. You totally buy him, even though he's usually just gurning all over the place. So I would give this a 3 out of 5. So with somebody yelling over my shoulders and saying, "Come over here, Dad, come over here right now," we have a final thoughts. We have totted up the numbers and we have rated everything out of 5. Shaun, who do you think won this week? Netflix or cinema?
I think cinema won it with Dragon, with the.
Raya and the Last Dragon.
Raya the Last Dragon, just by the 1 point. Because I think it was all pretty much... We must be you know, it was all pretty much level, except I think it just Raya just nabbed it. Yeah.
And Sharon, how would you think?
I agree. I think cinema might have just picked it with the help of a dragon.
Yes.
And you would be right. For the second week in a row, if we're not going to... I mean, last week might be under review by the independent adjudicator, but we're going to ignore that. But second week in a row, cinema! Yeah, cinema wins by 0.333333 of a point. It's, because of Raya and the Last Dragon. Raya and the Last Dragon was the only film this week that got anything above 3 stars. So...
Yeah, but nothing got lower than 3 stars. So
nothing got lower than 3 stars.
Pretty average.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty. There's been nothing. Even though I was expecting a real car crash in one film in particular, that was going to put. I was expecting that to put cinema in the toilet.
Surprised me, Tos. I tell you, surprised me.
Oh no, I can seriously see you just sharpening your knives going into that film, going, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna rip this one a new one." I could see you doing that going into that film, and so the fact that you said that might make me actually watch it, because I would imagine that the way you spoke about it sounds like you don't need to have watched the previous films in the Saw franchise to get on with that film. All right, cool. So until that,
I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, same here. I've heard that the first one's good, and the first one has quite a clever twist. And then the fact that they made 6 other films. And the fact that they made 6 other films, and the 5th one was called The Final Chapter, just makes me think, oh, for goodness sake, this, no, just leave me alone. I do not need to know anything about this. Just end it already. Don't bring it back. And they tried to reboot it with Jigsaw, and this is kind of like the second reboot of the whole thing. I'm like, no, I'm tired. I do not need this nonsense in my life. But anyway, till next week, when we will be seeing something in the cinema. Something in the cinema. I think Shaun might actually have something new to see that isn't Peter Rabbit 2.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, there's a couple of things. I was just looking actually, see what is out, and there's that's The Quiet Place 2.
Oh yeah, so
Quiet
Place 2.
Yeah,
that's out. That's out. And anything else? I might go and see Raya and the Last Dragon, because you've intrigued me with that. And then there's
one other, but I can't think what
there's
it was.
There's a film called Land. I thought it was.
Yeah, I've seen a poster,
and
that's
No Man's Land, but it just says Land.
Yeah. I saw a poster for that. Don't have a clue what it's about. So
no, I haven't.
So maybe if I find that in the cinema, I might actually try and just go watch that without knowing anything whatsoever, and see what happens.
And right, I wouldn't mind seeing Tom and Jerry, but the timing's not going to be right, I don't think.
Okay, now that Tom and this is not the first time they've tried to make a Tom and Jerry movie. It's not the first time they tried to make a Tom and Jerry movie, and the last time they messed it up royally. Yeah, so I have no expectations of this film, and I am insulted that this film exists. So, and that is my rant of the day done on Tom and Jerry, the latest movie. So until next week, when we shall see something, and I'll find out exactly how wrong and how prejudiced and big-headed I'm being about Tom and Jerry the movie. It's a goodbye from me.
And it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from me.
We will see you next week.
See you next week.
All right, cool. I'm going to go try and be a good dad now.
Yeah, go and be the good dad. Yeah.